You know what's funny about karma? It doesn't knock. It just walks right in when you least expect it. Those words still echo in my mind every time I think about what happened. What I'm about to tell you isn't just another family drama, it's the story of how one conversation changed everything. How years of humiliation finally found their justice. And how the sister who once called me a pathetic dreamer ended up on her knees, literally begging me to save her from the mess she created. My name is Cordelia, but everyone calls me Cora. I'm 28 now, sitting in my corner office on the 32nd floor of Manhattan's financial district, watching the city lights twinkle like fallen stars. The irony isn't lost on me. The same dreams my sister Beatrice once mocked are now funding the lifestyle she desperately wants back. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where it all began. Growing up in the affluent suburb of Westchester, our house was a monument to success. Everything gleamed from the marble floors to our parents' carefully curated social standing. Beatrice, 3 years older than me, was the crown jewel of this perfect facade. Valedictorian, head cheerleader, homecoming queen, she collected achievements like trophies, each one another reason for our parents to beam with pride. Beatrice is going places. They'd tell anyone who'd listen. She's got her head on straight, unlike some people. That some people was always me. While Beatrice excelled in traditional paths, I was the oddball with a sketchbook permanently attached to my hand, dreaming of creating something beautiful in a world that seemed to only value conventional success. I wanted to be a graphic designer, to work for major brands, to see my art on billboards and magazine covers. But in our house, ours wasn't a career, it was a hobby at best, a waste of time at worst. Cora needs to be more realistic, our father would say during dinner conversations that felt more like board meetings. Art doesn't pay the bills. Beatrice would smirk from across the table, cutting her steak with surgical precision. Some people just live in fantasy land, Dad. They think coloring in pretty pictures is going to make them millionaires. The worst part wasn't the words themselves, it was the way she delivered them. Not with malicious anger, but with this casual, dismissive cruelty that made it clear she genuinely believed I was beneath her consideration. Like my dreams were so ridiculous they weren't even worth taking seriously enough to hate. College came and went in a blur of family disappointment. While Beatrice sailed through Harvard Business School with honors and immediately landed a position at a prestigious consulting firm, I scraped by at a state school, working 3 part-time jobs to pay for my design courses. The family dinners became fewer and more tense, with each gathering featuring an uncomfortable comparison between Beatrice's latest promotion and my still trying to figure things out status. Maybe you should consider something more stable, our mother would suggest with that tone that wasn't really a suggestion. Beatrice could probably get you an entry-level position at her firm. Nothing fancy, but at least it's respectable. Beatrice would nod sympathetically. I could pull some strings, Cora. Get you into the mailroom, or maybe reception. It's not exactly creative, but it's better than whatever it is you're doing now. I was freelancing at the time, taking whatever design gigs I could find, wedding invitations, small business logos, the occasional flyer for local events. The work was inconsistent, the pay was terrible, and I was living in a studio apartment that was generous to call cramped. But every small project felt like a building block, each client a step toward something bigger. Thanks, but I'm good, I'd say, knowing that my refusal would be met with those knowing looks between family members that said she'll learn eventually. The breaking point came during Beatrice's engagement party. It was a lavish affair at the country club, the kind of event where everyone dressed in clothes that cost more than most people's monthly rent and spoke in careful, cultured tones about stocks and vacation homes. Beatrice had snagged herself the perfect husband, Jonathan, a surgeon from an equally wealthy family, complete with a trust fund and a jawline that belonged in a magazine. I'd scraped together enough money to buy a decent dress and showed up, determined to be supportive despite everything. The party was in full swing, champagne flowing like water, when I overheard a conversation that changed everything. I was in the bathroom, touching up my lipstick, when I heard voices in the hallway outside. The acoustics in those old buildings carry sound in strange ways, and I recognized Beatrice's laugh immediately. Can you believe she still thinks she's going to make it as some kind of artist? Beatrice was saying, her voice slightly slurred from champagne. Cora's almost 30, and still living like a college student. It's honestly embarrassing. Maybe she just needs more time. Came another voice, Jonathan's mother, I realized. Beatrice laughed again, sharper this time. Time for what? To accept reality. She's been building her portfolio for years. At some point, you have to admit you're just not good enough. I mean, if she had any real talent, wouldn't someone have noticed by now? There was a pause, then Jonathan's voice joined in. Didn't you say she asked you for money last month? A loan, Beatrice corrected with air quotes I could practically hear. She wanted to invest in some new equipment, said she had this big opportunity coming up. I told her she needed to grow up first. Maybe if she'd listened to Mom and Dad years ago and gotten a real job, she wouldn't be constantly broke and desperate. My hands were shaking as I listened, the lipstick tube nearly slipping from my grip. The worst part is how she still acts like she's some misunderstood artist, Beatrice continued. Like the world just doesn't appreciate her genius yet. It's delusional. I love my sister, but sometimes you have to practice tough love, you know? Maybe being broke will finally wake her up. The conversation moved away, their voices fading as they walked back toward the party. I stood in that bathroom for another 10 minutes, staring at my reflection and feeling something harden inside my chest. Not anger, exactly something colder and more determined. She thought I was delusional. She thought I wasn't good enough, that I needed to wake up. Fine. Let's see who needed waking up. I didn't say goodbye to anyone at the party. I slipped out through a side door and drove home to my cramped apartment, my mind already racing with possibilities. 4 months, I'd been working on something in secret, a comprehensive branding campaign for what I was certain was going to be the next big tech startup. The company was called Nexus, and their founder had found me through a friend of a friend. They were developing revolutionary software for financial institutions, and they needed someone who could create a brand identity that conveyed both innovation and trustworthiness. The pay wasn't great up front, but they'd offer me something potentially much better: equity in the company and first rights to handle all their future marketing materials if the software took off. Most designers would have demanded cash, especially someone in my financial position. But something about the founders' passion and the elegance of their software convinced me to take the gamble. I'd been working nights and weekends for 3 months, crafting everything from their logo to their website design to their investor presentation materials. It was the biggest project I'd ever taken on, and the quality of work I was producing surprised even me. Everything was sleek, modern, professional, the kind of branding that made people take notice. But it was also a massive risk. If Nexus failed, I'd have spent months working essentially for free, and I'd be even further behind financially. After Beatrice's engagement party, though, I threw myself into the project with a new intensity. Every dismissive comment she'd ever made fueled my determination. Every time I wanted to give up, I remembered her voice saying if she had any real talent, wouldn't someone have noticed by now? Someone was about to notice. The Nexus software launched 6 months later, and within weeks, it was being featured in Forbes, TechCrunch, and the Wall Street Journal. The financial sector was calling it revolutionary. Major banks were lining up to implement it, and my branding was front and center in every article, every advertisement, every investor meeting. But here's the thing about success. It's not always immediate or obvious. The first sign was when I started getting calls from major design firms wanting to poach me. Then came the direct inquiries from Fortune 500 companies who'd seen my work and wanted me to handle their rebranding efforts. Within a year, I'd founded my own design agency with 3 full-time employees and a client list that read like a who's who of corporate America. The equity in Nexus that everyone had thought was a foolish gamble was now worth more than most people made in a decade. I moved into a penthouse apartment in Soho. I bought the kind of clothes I'd once only seen in magazines. I drove a car that cost more than my parents' first house. And through it all, my family had no idea. I kept my success quiet for a simple reason. I wanted to see how long they'd continue treating me like a failure. Family dinners became fascinating studies in condescension. Beatrice would still pat my shoulder sympathetically and ask if I was still doing the art thing, while our parents exchanged worried glances about their daughter who just couldn't seem to get her life together. Maybe it's time to consider other options, our father suggested during one particularly painful dinner. There's no shame in changing directions, Cora. You're still young enough to start over. Beatrice nodded sagely. Jonathan's hospital is always looking for administrative staff. It's not glamorous, but it's steady. I could put in a word. I smiled and thanked them for their concern, all while mentally calculating the invoice I'd send to a client the next morning for more than Beatrice made in 3 months. The charade continued for almost 2 years. I told them I was freelancing more successfully, but I was careful not to reveal the true scope of my success. I'd show up to family events in nice but not too nice clothes, driving a decent but not too fancy car. I was playing a long game, waiting for the perfect moment. That moment came when Beatrice's perfect life started cracking. It began with small things: canceled dinner plans, stressed lines around her eyes, Jonathan working longer and longer hours at the hospital. Then came the bigger signs. The expensive handbags disappeared from her Instagram posts. The talk of their upcoming European vacation stopped mid-conversation. She started wearing the same few outfits to family gatherings. Our mother, ever tactful, finally asked the question we'd all been wondering. "How are things going with you and Jonathan, sweetheart? You seem a bit stressed lately." Beatrice's perfect composure faltered for just a moment. "Everything's fine, Mom. Jonathan's just been busy with work." But everything wasn't fine, and I could see it. Growing up with someone for 18 years teaches you their tells. Beatrice was worried about something big. The truth came out 3 months later when she called me at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night, sobbing so hard I could barely understand her words. "Cora, I don't know what to do. Can you come over?" I found her in her pristine apartment, the one she decorated with magazine-perfect furniture and color-coordinated everything, sitting on her white leather couch in yesterday's clothes, surrounded by tissues and financial documents. "He's leaving me," she said without preamble. "Jonathan's leaving me, and he's taking everything." The story came out in pieces between tears. Jonathan hadn't just been working long hours, he'd been having an affair with one of the other surgeons at the hospital. But that wasn't even the worst part. He'd also been systematically draining their joint accounts and moving money into investments under his name only. Their prenup, which Beatrice had signed without reading carefully because she trusted him completely, was ironclad in his favor. "I thought we were building a life together," she whispered. "I gave up my job when he said he wanted me to focus on planning the perfect wedding, the perfect home. I trusted him with everything. And now I have nothing. No job, no savings, no prospects. I haven't worked in 3 years, Cora. Who's going to hire me?" As I listened to her sob, I felt something strange happening inside me. The anger and resentment I'd carried for so long were still there, but they were mixed with something else, a kind of cold satisfaction that I wasn't entirely proud of but couldn't deny. Here was the sister who'd called me delusional, the one who'd mocked my dreams and suggested I needed to grow up and face reality. The golden child who'd always had everything handed to her, who'd never had to struggle or fight for anything. And now she was exactly where she'd always said I would end up: broke, desperate, and running out of options. "What am I going to do?" she asked, looking at me with the kind of vulnerability I'd never seen from her before. "I can't go back to Mom and Dad. They'll be so disappointed. And I don't have any skills anymore. I don't have anything." This was it. This was the moment I'd been unconsciously waiting for years. I looked at my sister, really looked at her. Her perfect makeup was ruined. Her hair was a mess, and her expensive clothes couldn't hide the fact that she was terrified. For the first time in our lives, I had all the power in the room. "Actually, Beatrice," I said quietly, "I think I might be able to help you." The look of hope that crossed her face was almost heartbreaking. "Almost? Really? Cora, I know I haven't always been the best sister, but if you could help me figure out what to do, I would be so grateful. Maybe you know someone who's hiring, or—" I held up a hand to stop her. "Before we talk about what I can do for you, there's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told the family a long time ago." I pulled out my phone and showed her my company's website. Her eyes widened as she took in the client testimonials, the portfolio of major brand campaigns, the professional headshots of me in expensive suits standing in my corner office. "I don't understand," she said slowly. "What is this?" "This is my company, Beatrice. My design agency. I founded it 3 years ago, and we now handle branding and marketing for some of the biggest companies in the country. That art thing you've been so worried about? It's made me more money in the past 2 years than you made in your entire consulting career." I swiped through more photos on my phone: my penthouse apartment, my car, pictures from client events at 5-star restaurants and exclusive venues. Remember when you laughed about me asking you for a loan for equipment? That equipment helped me land the client that changed everything. I never actually needed your money, Beatrice. I wanted to see if you'd support me when I needed it most. And instead, you told people I was delusional and needed to grow up. The color drained from her face as the implications hit her. I heard you at your engagement party. I continued, my voice steady and calm. Every word you said about me to Jonathan and his mother. How I wasn't good enough. How I needed to face reality. How it was embarrassing that I still believed in myself. She started to say something, but I wasn't finished. For 2 years, I've watched our parents and you treat me like a charity case. Like someone to be pitied and managed. I've sat through dinners where you offered to get me a job in reception, where Dad suggested I start over in something more realistic, all while I was building something incredible. Beatrice was staring at me like she'd never seen me before. Cora, I didn't know. Why didn't you tell us? Because I wanted to see how long you'd all keep treating me like a failure. I wanted to understand what you really thought of me, and now I do. I stood up and walked to her window, looking out at the city lights. When I turned back, she was crying again, but these were different tears. These were tears of recognition, of understanding exactly what she'd lost. You want to know the really beautiful part? I said, remember how you always told me that if I had any real talent, someone would have noticed by now? Well, someone did notice. Lots of someones, including the people who are going to be deciding whether or not to help you get back on your feet. Over the next hour, I laid out exactly how successful my business had become. I showed her articles about my company in design magazines, screenshots of emails from Fortune 500 CEOs praising my work, and bank statements that made her consulting salary look like pocket change. But I also told her something else. I've been thinking about expanding into business consulting, I said, helping companies not just with their branding, but with their overall strategic positioning. It turns out that understanding what makes people want something, which is basically what good design does, translates pretty well to broader business problems. Her eyes lit up with hope. That's exactly what I used to do. Strategic consulting. I was actually really good at it before I gave it up for Jonathan. I know you were. I did my research. I pulled out a folder I'd prepared before coming over. These are some of your old client testimonials I found online. Your former colleagues speak very highly of your analytical skills and strategic thinking. She looked through the papers, and for the first time that night, I saw a glimmer of the confident woman she used to be. Cora, are you offering me a job? I sat back down across from her. I'm considering it. But first, I need to know if you understand exactly what's happening here. She looked confused, so I spelled it out for her. For our entire lives, you've seen yourself as the successful one, and me as the dreamer who needed to get realistic. You've spent years making it clear that you thought I was beneath you, not smart enough, not practical enough, not good enough. And now you're sitting here, broke and desperate, asking me to save you. The words hung in the air between us. I could offer you a position at my company, I continued. I could probably start you at twice what you were making before. I could give you the chance to rebuild your career and your life. But I need to know that you understand what this means. She was quiet for a long time, staring at her hands. It means I was wrong about everything, she finally whispered. It means I was a terrible sister. It means that while I was judging you and dismissing your dreams, you were becoming everything I thought I was. And it means that the person I looked down on is now the person I need to beg for help. The word beg hung in the air like a challenge. I let the silence stretch out, watching as the full weight of the situation settled over her. This was the moment I'd been building toward without even realizing it, not just professional success, but this complete reversal of our dynamic. Cora, she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm asking you to please consider helping me. I was wrong about you, wrong about everything. I let my own insecurities and jealousy make me cruel, and I'm so sorry. Jealousy? I asked, genuinely surprised. She laughed bitterly. You really don't see it, do you? You were always the creative one, the one with the vision and the passion. Even when we were kids, you'd sit for hours working on these elaborate drawings and stories, completely absorbed in creating something beautiful. I was good at school, good at playing the game, but I never had that spark you had. She wiped her eyes with a tissue. I think part of me always knew you were going to do something special, and I was terrified that when you did, everyone would see that all my achievements were just following a script, while yours came from something real. I wasn't expecting this level of honesty, and it caught me off guard. So I convinced myself that your dreams were unrealistic, she continued. It was easier than admitting that I was jealous of your courage to pursue them. And when you struggled, when the money was tight and the work was inconsistent, I told myself I was right. That my path was better, safer, smarter. She looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. But you never gave up. You kept working, kept believing in yourself, even when everyone around you, including me, was telling you to quit. And look what you built. Look what you became. And now you want me to save you from the consequences of choosing the safe path, I said. She flinched at the harshness in my voice, but nodded. Yes, I'm asking you to save me. I'm begging you. Actually, because I have nowhere else to turn and no one else who can help me the way you can. There was the word I'd been waiting to hear. Begging. The sister who'd called me delusional was begging me for help. I should have felt triumphant. This was everything I'd ever wanted, wasn't it? Complete vindication, total reversal of fortune. The golden child brought low while the dreamer soared high. But sitting there, looking at Beatrice's tear-streaked face, I felt something unexpected, not triumph, but a kind of hollow sadness. This wasn't the victory I'd imagined. If I help you, I said slowly, things are going to be different between us. Forever. Do you understand that? She nodded eagerly. Yes, absolutely. Anything you need. I don't mean professionally. I mean personally. This conversation has changed everything. I can't go back to pretending that I don't know how you really saw me all these years. I can't pretend that you didn't spend decades treating me like I was less than you. I know, she whispered. I understand. Do you? Because I'm not just offering you a job, Beatrice. I'm offering you a chance to rebuild your entire life. But if I do this, I need to know that you understand who has the power now. I need to know that you'll never again treat my dreams, or anyone else's, like they're worth less than your practical plans. She was quiet for a long moment, and I could see her processing what I was really asking. You want me to acknowledge that you were right, and I was wrong, she said finally. No, I replied. I want you to acknowledge that I was never wrong in the first place. There's a difference. I wasn't lucky. I wasn't delusional. I wasn't unrealistic. I was talented and hardworking, and brave enough to bet on myself when no one else would, including my own family. The tears started flowing again, but she nodded. You're right. You were always right, and I was too insecure and scared to see it. I stood up and walked to the window again, thinking about everything that had brought us to this moment. All the years of feeling like I wasn't good enough, all the family dinners where I felt like an outsider, all the times I doubted myself because the people who were supposed to support me didn't believe in what I was doing. But I also thought about the person I'd become in spite of all that. Strong, successful, independent. I'd built something beautiful and meaningful, and I'd done it without their help or approval. Okay, I said, turning back to face her. Here's what's going to happen. I pulled out a business card and placed it on the coffee table between us. Monday morning, you're going to call that number and set up a meeting with my HR director. You'll go through the same interview process as any other candidate, and if you're qualified, which I believe you are, we'll discuss a position. She picked up the card with shaking hands. Thank you, Cora. Thank you so much. I'm not finished, I said. If you join my company, you'll be starting as a junior consultant. The salary will be good, but it won't be senior level compensation. You'll need to earn your way back up, prove that you can handle the work, prove that you fit with our culture. She nodded eagerly. Of course, absolutely. And one more thing. This conversation we just had, this is the last time we ever discuss the past. I don't want your apologies, I don't want your regrets, and I don't want you treating me differently because you feel guilty. If you join my company, you work for me because I'm good at what I do and because you respect my vision. Not because you owe me something. I understand. Do you? I leaned forward because I need to be clear about something else. If you take this job, you'll be working for the sister you used to mock. Every day, you'll be taking direction from the person you thought was delusional. Can you handle that? She was quiet for a long moment, and I could see her really thinking about it. Yes, she said finally. Actually, I think it might be exactly what I need. I've spent so long thinking I knew everything thinking my way was the only right way. Maybe working for someone who proved me completely wrong will teach me something. As I write this, Beatrice has been working at my company for 6 months. True to her word, she threw herself into the work with a dedication I'd never seen from her before. She started as a junior consultant, but her experience and analytical skills were evident from day one. More importantly, she'd earned the respect of the team through her work, not through family connections. She stayed late, took on challenging projects, and never once tried to leverage our relationship for special treatment. The family dinners are different now, too. Our parents were shocked when they learned about my success, and while they tried to hide it, I could see the mixture of pride and embarrassment on their faces. Pride that their daughter had succeeded beyond their wildest dreams, and embarrassment that they'd so completely misunderstood and underestimated me. But the biggest change has been in my relationship with Beatrice herself. The dynamic between us has completely shifted, but not in the way I expected. I thought I'd feel superior, vindicated, powerful. Instead, I feel something more complex, a kind of sad wisdom about how wrong we can be about the people closest to us. She's a good employee and, surprisingly, she's becoming a better sister. Not because she's grateful or guilty, but because she finally sees me clearly. She asks thoughtful questions about my vision for the company, offers insights that come from her own experience, and treats my success as something worth learning from rather than something to be dismissed. The strangest part of this whole story is that my actual victory wasn't what I thought it would be. I spent years wanting my family to recognize my worth, to see that my dreams were valid, to treat me as an equal. When that finally happened, it felt hollow. The real victory was what I'd been building all along: the confidence to pursue my vision regardless of what anyone else thought, the skills to turn that vision into reality, and the strength to bet on myself when no one else would. Beatrice's fall from grace and subsequent dependence on me was just a side effect of that larger victory. The satisfaction I felt wasn't from seeing her fail, but from realizing that her opinion of me had never actually mattered. I'd succeeded not to prove her wrong, but because I'd refused to let her be right. That's the thing about pursuing your dreams: the people who doubt you often reveal more about their own limitations than yours. Beatrice's dismissal of my aspirations came from her own fear of taking risks, her own inability to envision a path outside conventional success metrics. When she called me delusional for believing in my artistic vision, she was really expressing her own terror at the thought of betting everything on something uncertain. It was easier to call my dreams unrealistic than to confront the possibility that maybe she was the one living a fantasy, the fantasy that playing by all the rules would guarantee happiness and security. The ultimate irony is that Beatrice's practical path led her to exactly the kind of vulnerability she'd warned me against. By giving up her career to focus on marriage, by putting all her eggs in the basket of traditional expectations, she'd made herself completely dependent on forces beyond her control. When Jonathan betrayed her, she had no backup plan, no skills to fall back on, no identity outside of being his wife. Meanwhile, my impractical artistic pursuits had given me something: she'd never had true independence. My success wasn't dependent on anyone else's approval or continued presence in my life. I'd built something that was entirely mine, something that couldn't be taken away by a cheating spouse or a changing job market. Now, when I sit in my office overlooking Manhattan, I sometimes think about that scared girl who used to hide her drawings because she was tired of being told they weren't good enough. I wish I could tell her that she was right to keep believing, right to keep working, right to ignore everyone who said she needed to be more realistic. I'd tell her that the people who doubt your dreams often do so because they've given up on their own. That the family members who push you toward practical choices sometimes do so because they're afraid of what it means if you succeed where they didn't even try. Most importantly, I tell her that the best revenge against people who don't believe in you isn't proving them wrong, it's succeeding so completely that their opinions become irrelevant. Last week, I got a call from a journalist at Forbes who's writing an article about young entrepreneurs disrupting traditional industries. She wanted to interview me about how I'd built my company and what advice I'd give to other people trying to turn creative passions into sustainable businesses. During our conversation, she asked about my family's reaction to my success. "They're very proud now," I said, and it was true. But I learned something important along the way: building your dreams on other people's approval is like building a house on quicksand. The foundation will never be solid, So what do you build on instead? She asked. I thought about it for a moment, looking out at the city I now called home, thinking about the team of talented people working just outside my office, remembering all the clients whose brands had grown and thrived because of campaigns we created together. You build on the work itself, I said finally, on the satisfaction of creating something meaningful, on the relationships you form with people who share your vision, on the knowledge that you're contributing something valuable to the world. Everything else, the money, the recognition, even the family approval, those are just nice bonuses. After I hung up, I realized that was the lesson I'd been learning all along. Success isn't about proving other people wrong, it's about proving yourself right. It's about having enough faith in your own vision to pursue it even when the path is uncertain, even when people you love think you're making a mistake. Beatrice learned that lesson the hard way, through loss and humiliation, and the painful recognition that she'd been wrong about almost everything. I learned it through persistence and eventual triumph, but also through the strange anticlimax of getting everything I thought I wanted. The sister who once laughed at my dreams now works to make them bigger and better. The parents who worried I was too impractical now brag about my success to their friends. The doubters have become believers, the skeptics have become supporters. But the most important relationship, the one between me and my own ambitions, my own vision of what was possible, that relationship was built through years of work when no one was watching, through late nights when I was the only one who believed, through moments of doubt when I had to choose between other people's certainty and my own hope. That's the relationship that made everything else possible. That's the foundation that couldn't be shaken, no matter how many people said I was building castles in the air. As I finish writing the story, I can hear Beatrice in the conference room next door, presenting a strategic analysis to one of our biggest clients. She's good at what she does, and she's earned her place here through merit, not sympathy. But every now and then, when she passes my office, I catch her looking at me with something that might be admiration. Not the grudging acknowledgement of someone who owes me something, but the genuine respect of someone who recognizes excellence when she sees it. It's a look I've been waiting my whole life to see from her. And now that I have it, I realize it was never what I really needed. What I needed was to become the kind of person worthy of that look, regardless of whether anyone was watching.